Here we are inside the Auto-Sleeper Warwick XL. If we firstly come to the main control panel just here, we can turn the 12 volt on. Once we've done this, we can then turn the water pump on. We need the water pump on so we can get water out the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained. Next we have the isolator switch for the lower lights. All the top lights just here are all turned on and off on their own switches, and the lower lights can also be turned off on their own switches as well. We then have awning light on and off. This button here will do absolutely nothing, it's just generic for the control panel itself and is not used on this particular model. We then have battery selection, so we can switch between the vehicle battery and the leisure battery. Whichever battery you've selected on here is the battery you are charging whilst hooked up to the mains. It will also, if you leave it, just cycle between the batteries. We then have tank heaters on, tank heaters off for the fresh and the waste tanks. So if you are using the van in extremely cold climate, you can turn it on to stop the tanks from freezing up. All other information is then given via scrolling. So if we just return back to the beginning, so we have the Auto-Sleeper logo just here. We have external temperature. It's letting us know we have main supply connected, the time, and the internal temperature. If we start scrolling, we can just have it as a clock. This is where we can change the clock, set alarms, etc. So if we arrow in, we can obviously change the time. We could set a wake up alarm if we wanted to and turn it on and off just here. And we can also set a countdown timer alarm at the bottom. After that, we have condition of leisure battery. How many amp hours are in the leisure battery? Take this with a pinch of salt. They're not particularly very accurate. Always go by what you're viewing just here. And then we have how many amps we're currently using or have coming in to the van. After that, we have condition of vehicle battery, condition of leisure battery, how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. And then we return back to the beginning again. Beside the main control panel, we then have the control panel for the Truma heating and hot water. We turn this one on by pressing the black button just here. And then you will see all of these icons, and as I begin to rotate the button, they will begin to flash. Again, when you're hooked up to the main supply, you will get an indication. If we start with the first icon just here, this one is for your heating. So if I now click on it, heating is off. And all we now do is just rotate the button and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the van, right the way up to a rather toasty 30 degrees. So let's say we want it to be 30 degrees in here for a moment. Click on it to store it in, and you'll now see a little flame has appeared above. That little flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. When the heating is actually in operation, the flame will begin to flash, and as you can see, it's now come into operation. The thermostat for the heating is just here. After that, we then have hot water, and again, if I now click on it, hot water is off, and if we rotate, we can heat hot water to about 40 degrees, 60 degrees, or we can perform a boost on the boiler. The boost was mainly designed for if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other. If you are performing the boost and the heating's running, it will turn the heating off because it needs to rob the power to be able to do the actual boost itself. If I now drop it back down to 40 degrees, you will see that the heating will fire back up again, and these will now both continue to flash until they achieve the temperature you have asked them If we now move to the next icon, this is power source. So we're currently using mains electricity, indicated by the lightning strikes just here, and that is at 2 kilowatts. If I rotate the button, I can lower the power consumption to 1 kilowatt if we're on a low amp site. This will stop us from tripping. We can run in dual fuel, so we can run on a mixture of gas and mains at 2, or a mixture of gas and mains at 1. These settings here are especially handy in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly. It will only use gas as it is required. And if we have no main supply at all, we can run solely on gas. After power source, we then have circulation fan for the heating system. So we can either have the fan in eco mode or high. And if I now turn off hot water and the heating, and now go back to the circulation fan, we can use it to vent, and it has a fan speed of 1 to 10, and then it will just move the air around the van. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a basic timer, so we just click on it, set when we would like the timer to start, and then finish. Once we've done that, we just literally pick what we would like on within that time period. Once we've set it, we then turn the timer on or off. If I now activate the timer, you'll see the timer icon comes up there, and now within that time period those settings would apply. If we now turn it back off again, the next time we go to it, we can obviously alter it. After that, we then have clock set. And then lastly, we have the settings menu. In here we have index, which is just really for technicians. It just lets them know what software it's running. Brightness of the screen. Language. Full factory reset, so if there is a problem with the unit, you can obviously reset it. And then lastly, offset, which is just for the thermostat just there. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just tweak it by a few degrees each way. From time to time, these units will throw up error codes. They will usually be relatively basic stuff. So it will let you know if it hasn't got main supply connected, if you're trying to run something on the mains, or if you're trying to use the gas and you haven't got any gas, etc. An error code will appear where my finger is just here, and it will appear as a warning triangle. If you then click on it, it will then display a series of numbers and letters, and then if you look in the manual or if you Google it, it will then let you know what the problem is. 9 times out of 10, if you rectify the problem, the error code will automatically just disappear. If that's not the case, I always then suggest double clicking on the warning triangle, and then sometimes again it will say no error. If you've tried this and you still have no luck, I then suggest just turning the whole system off, and that's just by holding the button down until it says off, and then turning it back on again. If this doesn't work, I then say do a factory reset. Sometimes these can just glitch and they just need to be hard reset. Next we have the hob just here. So we have 3 gas rings, and that is just a matter of pushing in, twisting and pressing the igniter. And then beneath we have the oven and the grill. So if we push in to the left, we'll fire up the oven. And then if we push in and turn to the right, we will then fire up the grill. Next we have the fridge. And to turn the fridge on, we just need to press the square just here. This Thetford fridge is an automatic model, so as long as you are on A for auto, as we are at the moment, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're hooked up to main supply at the moment, it's put us directly onto mains. If I was to now go outside and pull the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas, and as soon as we start the engine of the vehicle, it will then go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. We can take it out of auto, so again, if I just tap, we can now press this button here and I can manually put it onto mains. Manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. We're going to get an error code at the moment and a red flashing light because we haven't got the engine running, and I can manually put it onto gas. But at the end of the day, automatic is the easiest one to have it on. Temperature control just here, and then just open just here, and then we have the freezer box. Venting arm is just tucked just up here, so we have the arm that will just fold out so we can hold the door on ajar when we're not using it. And then if we hold the button back in, we can then turn the unit back off. Next we have the washroom. So we have the shower and the basin just here. Shower screen here. Do make sure that it is clipped back for travel. Thetford toilet just here. Bowl swivels all about. To open to the cassette, just on the grey lever just here, and then push to flush just here, and then close back up to the cassette again. Level indicator just here to let you know when the cassette needs emptying. Microwave. The isolator is just up the top here for it. Do make sure that the plate is removed for travel. And then we have quick start just here, stop, or we can rotate for time, etc. We have power setting, defrost, all the usual stuff that you find on most modern microwaves. In the wardrobe, we have the small table and pole just here, and then we also have the digital amplifier for the television aerial on the roof. Control the boost just here, and we can turn it on and off just on the side here. The Avtex television behaves like most TVs, on and off just here. This also has a DVD player just in this side here, and USB connectivity. Because it is a travel television, and obviously you need to retune it in as you move around the country, etc. Just hold this button in and it will then take you straight back to the retune menu. And then we have all the normal stuff. We have the TV guide, etc. just here. If we now go down underneath the bench seat, we have the consumer unit just here. So we have the trips just here. So we have the 3 individual MCBs, the RCD and the test button. They are all numbered up just at the bottom, and then will correspond in the Auto-Sleeper handbook. And exactly the same with the 12 volt fuses just here. Again, they are all numbered up. We have isolator switches just here. These are for basically units that require main supply. So we have the heating and hot water just here, so if we turn those off we will get an error code on the control panel if we are trying to use it on main supply. We can turn the battery charger on and off. Obviously we want the battery charger on so we can charge the batteries up when hooked up to main supply. And the last one will illuminate if you have reverse polarity connected to the van. If this has illuminated, it does not matter. These Sargent consumer units will reverse the polarity and make it safe within the van. We then have exactly the same buttons as what you will find on the actual main control panel itself. And then lastly, full system shutdown. So if you're not using the vehicle for long periods of time, what you can do is press this button just here and it will then kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. If we now remove the cushions from this bench seat, we can then gain access to where the leisure battery is kept, and also where the drain valve is for the boiler. So we have the leisure battery just here, battery charger just here. You will also find just on top of where the consumer unit sits the isolator for the tank heater in the waste tank. So if you turn on your tank heater button on the main control panel but you don't necessarily have any water in the waste tank, you can isolate it just here. The combi boiler is located just here, and then the drain valve for it is located just, if I can get the angle right, because there's rather a lot of pipe work in here. Let me just pop my torch in there and then we can hopefully move about. There we go. If we can just see this little blue diamond just here, that is the drain valve. These are automatic, so if the internal temperature of this van drops below 3-4 degrees, this will automatically open up and drop all the water out of the boiler to frost protect itself. If we are going to manually drain it, what we do is we twist the blue diamond on the top and it will then jettison all the water out of the boiler. What will also happen is down at the base of the unit, let's see if we can just show that just by moving that out of the way, you can probably just about make out a little blue button. Let me just adjust the light. There we go, there it is, and you'll see that this has just popped out. All we now need to do is twist the blue diamond like so, and then push the button back in to reset it. Then turn the water pump on, and obviously the water pump will then reprime the boiler. If this auto drains, all that will happen is the blue button just pops out, and to reset it all you need to do is push it back in. If you're pushing it back in and it's popping back out, either this blue diamond is not in the correct place or it is just too cold in the van and you will need to turn your heating on to generate some heat to make it reset. We do also have a few more fuses that are just tucked behind the driver's seat just here. Again, they are all labelled up. And this is also the location for the roll-out canopy winding handle.